Good evening. I bring greetings from the great state of Georgia. So let's get the hard part out of the way. I am a Republican. But tonight, I stand here as an American. An American that cares more about the future of this country than the future of Donald Trump. My journey started to this podium years ago when I realized Donald Trump was willing to lie, cheat, and steal to try to overturn the 2020 election. I realized Trump was a direct threat to democracy, and his actions disqualified him from ever stepping foot into the Oval Office again. I could spend my time revving up this crowd, but I'm certain I don't have to talk anybody out of voting for Donald Trump here. So I'm going to focus my attention on the millions of Republicans and independents that are at home that are sick and tired of making excuses for Donald Trump. If Republicans are being intellectually honest with ourselves, our party is not civil or conservative. It's chaotic and crazy, and the only thing left to do is dump Trump. These days, our party acts more like a cult worshiping a felonious thug. Look, you don't have to agree with every policy position of Kamala Harris. I don't. But you do have to recognize her prosecutor mindset that understands right from wrong, good from evil. She's a steady hand and will bring leadership to the White House that Donald Trump could never do. Let me be clear to my Republican friends at home watching. If you vote for Kamala Harris in 2024, you're not a Democrat, you're a patriot. In our family, my wife Brooke and I are raising 3 boys, and we have a family motto. And it says, doing the right thing will never be the wrong thing. During 2020, during just the lowest of lows, when we had armed officers outside our house protecting us from other Republicans, Donald Trump had targeted us. My son came downstairs, and he handed me this coaster that I'd given him years before at a father-son retreat for our church. And he said, hey, Dad, doing the right thing will never be the wrong thing. Stay strong. To my fellow Republicans at home that want to pivot back towards policy, empathy, and tone, you know the right thing to do. Now let's have the courage to do it in November. Thank you, and God bless you.
What was it like to be up there on stage? I mean, you are a conservative guy from a southern state. This was not necessarily a hometown crowd for you, and yet they did embrace you.
Yeah, complete sea of emotions, right? Of course, I'm on the other team. You know, it's like getting traded from the Yankees to the Red Sox, you know, but you know, you had folks back home that were really supportive. You had folks back home that were, you know, trying to send text messages like, what are you thinking? At the end of the day, this was a heartfelt message to try to convince 10 million Republicans or independents that there's a better way to do this. And we have to play the long play right now. We've already lost. As common sense conservatives, our nominee is not worthy to be president, nor is he going to be president. And so let's get somebody in there that can be a steady hand, keep the trains on time, and we go back home and take our medicine and fix this party.
Harris is going to accept the nomination tonight. What do you hear from friends back home, as you put it, about her, their willingness to potentially vote for her? And I mean, I know you also see data and you talk to a lot of people who do politics professionally. Do you think Georgia is actually on the map yet?
Yeah, the soil is definitely softer now than when she first kind of came on the scene as, replacing President Biden. Just because I think a couple of those policy positions that she took in the 2020 election in that primary have softened. Not all of them, certainly not a majority of them, but some of them. I feel like she's taken that and been able to drop that in the laps of us independents and Republicans. So I do think it's softening. As far as Georgia goes, absolutely it's in play. The second Joe Biden came off the ballot, it took the biggest excuse for voting for a Democrat, which was he was too old. Now you've got a 59-year-old energetic that's just doing everything right. In addition, Donald Trump comes down to Georgia and tries to just blow up Brian Kemp for no reason other than just a self-grievance. And that really carried a lot of weight to it. So in my opinion, and I think you're watching the polling, it is a dead heat.
Michael Singleton, Bill Clinton has long been a messenger to many of these voters that you have been talking about. This is how Politico described it. They say Clinton has long compared himself not to a dog, but to a racehorse with his party, the stable keeper. Every 2 years, he would joke, they let him out of the barn for another lap around the track. Clinton was noticeably slower on Wednesday, but he still seemed to relish getting off his lines about Trump, whom he described as a paragon of consistency. What was your view of how Bill Clinton
I'm biased. I think the world of Bill Clinton in terms of his intellect, in terms of his ability to communicate. He's a great narrator. And so I was happy to see him there. He said this may be the last one. He's not sure how many he'll be able to speak at in the future. The problem, I think, though, and I was texting with a lot of different people about this last night, the Democratic Party has changed so much since Bill Clinton's presidency. And he alluded to that. He talked about Democrats needing to talk to other types of voters in Arkansas and rural parts of New York and other parts of the country. And he said you should not demean these people merely because you may disagree with them. So I was happy to see him there. But I just think he was looking back at a halcyon days from the past as a party is just disparate. It's ideologically different from where it used to be. And I'm not sure if the appeals that a lot of people respect about the former president have the same resolve in today's Democratic Party.
Megan, do you agree with that assessment?
No, I still think that Democrats are the party for the working class. And I think that that's the foundation of the Democratic Party. They're about the middle class. They're about making life better for people. And I don't think that's fundamentally different from the President Clinton. I do think that we are a big tent party and we're trying to build a broader coalition and bring more people in, but I don't think the basis of our party has changed.
Jeff Duncan, here's another little bit of what Clinton had to say about Donald Trump, comparing it to Clinton acknowledging his own age in this, but take a look.
Now let's cut to the chase. I am too old to gild the lily. 2 days ago, I turned 78, the oldest man in my family for 4 generations. And the only personal vanity I want to assert is I'm still younger than Donald Trump.
Fair. What you were here for Clinton's speech last night.
What a line. Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, the only thing that really kind of kept us away from, as a country, talking about Donald Trump's age was Joe Biden's age, because it was obviously, it was close, but still the numbers were higher. But yeah, I think highlighting it. But, Donald Trump's biggest issues are not his age-related issues. It's just his psyche. It's his personality. It's his core. And you just watch that play out over and over and over again. It really starting to feel like a Ponzi scheme cracking apart for Donald Trump, in my opinion.
Leah, this, of course, a long arc for Democrats here. I mean, some of it is the changing nature of the country, in addition to the changing nature of the party.
Yeah, so I think part of what's going on with Bill Clinton is that Clinton represents an era of Democratic politics that really was about this kind of idea of unity, but under the idea of a new vision of the Democratic Party, right? Quite literally, he's one of the founders of the new Democratic movement of the 1980s and 1990s that comes out of the South and comes out of Arkansas, where he's governor. He becomes the face of it. And I do agree, actually, with Shermichael about this idea that the Democratic Party is starting to shift or may look different, but I disagree on what the face of the Democratic Party looks like. When I say that it's shifting, it has expanded. Part of what they're doing is bringing Bill Clinton back as a kind of like a herald to a bygone day, right? There is a reason why Bill Clinton is speaking on the night in the lead up to Tim Walz. The theme for the night was supposed to be freedom, but it is also about what kind of tent do we want to have? What kind of people do we want to bring in? We want to talk about the old Bill Clinton, Chicago, right? right? 1992, 1996, this idea of, he's when he's nominated. But we also want to look forward to the future and think about the people that we've included in the past and the people that we want to do a good job including in the future. The other thing that I'll say here, too, is that Clinton in his heyday, right, is this remarkable storyteller, but he is also incredibly popular with all kinds of different demographics. And I think it is clearly very important to bring someone like that in who has the ability, even if that ability has rusted a little bit, even if it's a little bit older, he can still spin a yarn and he can still relate to people in a way that is deeply charismatic. And that speaks to some of those issues that we've talked about on this panel that Democrats really need to hit if they want to win. It was a perfect tee up for Tim Walz later in the evening.
Very interesting way to think about it.